Jake Morrison sat in the large meeting room on Kepler Prime. The walls were made of smooth metal that glowed softly with blue light. Around the circular table sat beings from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like giant insects with many eyes. Others were made of living crystal that sang when they talked. A few floated in clear tanks filled with strange gas. Jake was the only human in the room. He wore his best diplomatic suit and tried not to stare at the alien creatures around him. As Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Coordination Assembly, he had seen many strange things, but he still felt amazed every time he attended these meetings. The meeting was about maps. Every 3 months, all the species in the galaxy came together to update their star charts. They shared information about new planets they had found, trade routes they had opened, and colonies they had built. It was boring work, but Jake knew it was important. Crystal singer Vex High stood at the front of the room. She was one of the Vorthic people, and her body looked like a walking diamond. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. She was the chief cartographer for the assembly, which meant she was in charge of making the big galactic map. Today we will review the territorial boundaries of the Nimari Collective, Vex High announced. A three-dimensional map appeared in the air above the table. It showed a cluster of star systems with lines connecting them. Jake could see the gas giant planets where the Nimari lived, floating in their cloud cities. Windrider Gashan, the Nimari. Ambassador floated forward in his containment suit. The suit was filled with the special atmosphere his people needed to breathe. We have established 3 new mining operations in the Kepler 442 system, he said in his whispery voice. The rare metals that will help us build more ships. Vex High updated the map. New dots appeared, showing the Nimari colonies. Lines connected them to show shipping routes. Jake watched as the map grew more detailed. The meeting continued for hours. Each species shared their updates. The Zeltar showed their new hive worlds. The Corvani displayed their research stations. The Vexians marked their agricultural planets. Each time, Vex High carefully added the information to the great galactic map. Finally, it was Jake's turn. He stood up and cleared his throat. The Terran Federation has completed construction of New Denver Colony, he said. It's our furthest outpost, located in the Tau Ceti system. The map showed human space, with Earth at the center and colonies spreading outward like the spokes of a wheel. Jake looked at the map more carefully. Something seemed wrong. Human territory was clearly marked, with detailed information about every planet and space station. But beyond the outer human colonies, the map was completely blank. There were no stars marked, no planets shown, no trade routes drawn. It was as if space itself ended at the edge of human territory. "Excuse me," Jake said, pointing at the empty area. "What about this region here? Surely there are stars and planets. Beyond our colonies?" The room became very quiet. Vex High's crystal body stopped glowing for a moment. Several of the alien ambassadors looked uncomfortable. Some turned away from the map entirely. "That area is not relevant to our current discussion," Vex High said quickly. Her voice had lost its musical quality and sounded harsh. "Let us move on to the next item on our agenda." But Jake was curious now. He had been studying the galactic map for months, and he had never noticed this blank area before. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Are you saying there's nothing beyond our territory? No other star systems?" Windrider Gashan's suit began to float backward, away from the table. "Some regions are better left unmapped," he whispered. "Some knowledge is not meant for sharing." Drone speaker Klix, who represented the Zeltar hive mind, began clicking his mandibles nervously. "The discussion is finished," he said in his buzzing voice. "We must move to other matters." Jake felt confused and frustrated. He was a diplomat, and he knew when people were hiding something. But he also knew when to push and when to back down. He sat down and stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. After the assembly ended, Jake tried to talk to some of the other ambassadors privately. He found drone speaker clicks in the corridor outside the meeting room. "I wanted to ask you about the unmapped region," Jake said politely. Clicks's compound eyes focused on Jake. His antennae twitched with agitation. "The hive mind does not discuss such matters," he said. "Some territories are forbidden to all species. This is known." He hurried away before Jake could ask another question. Jake found Windrider Gashin in the diplomatic lounge. The Nimare was floating near a window, looking out at the stars. Jake approached carefully. "I hope I didn't offend anyone." "During the meeting," Jake said, "I was just curious about the blank area on the map." Gashin turned to face him. Through the clear walls of his containment suit, Jake could see the Nimare's worried expression. "Young species ask many questions," Gashin said softly. "But some questions are dangerous to ask. Some answers are dangerous to know." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Gashin floated closer to the window. "Look at the stars, human Jake. See how they shine with beauty and wonder. Would you want to know if some of them hide terrible secrets? Would you want to learn things that would make you afraid to sleep at night?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying there's something dangerous out there?" "I am saying that every species in this galaxy has learned the same lesson." Gashin replied, "There are places on the map that should remain blank. There are regions of space that should never be explored. The wise species accept this truth and do not ask questions." Gashin floated away, leaving Jake alone by the window. Jake stared out at the stars and wondered what secrets they might hide. He thought about the blank area on the galactic map and the fear he had seen in the alien ambassadors' faces. That night, Jake sat in his quarters and wrote a report to Earth. He described the strange reaction of the alien species when he asked about the unmapped region. He wrote about their warnings and their obvious fear. But most importantly, he wrote about his growing certainty that humanity was being deliberately kept away from something important. As he finished his report, Jake made a decision. He was going to find out what lay beyond the edge of human territory, even if the entire galaxy was determined to keep it secret. After all, humans had never been good at accepting that some questions shouldn't be asked. Jake Morrison stood in the busy spaceport on Earth, watching ships come and go. The journey back from Kepler Prime had taken 3 weeks, and he had spent every day thinking about the blank area on the galactic map. The fear in the alien ambassadors. Voices still haunted him. He knew he had discovered something important, something that could change everything. The shuttle ride to Luna Station felt longer than usual. Jake looked out the window at the gray surface of the moon, covered with domes and towers that housed millions of people. Earth's moon had become the center of human space operations, and that was where Jake needed to go. Admiral Lisa Bennett was waiting for him in her office at Fleet Command. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and sharp blue eyes. Jake had known her for 5 years, ever since he became Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. She was one of the few people who would listen to his concerns without thinking he was crazy. "You look worried, Jake," Admiral Bennett said as he sat down across from her desk. "Your message from Kepler Prime was pretty mysterious. What did you find out there?" Jake pulled out his tablet and showed her the galactic map. "Look at this, Lisa. Every species in the galaxy has detailed charts of their territory. Trade routes, colonies, mining operations, everything. But look what happens when you get to human space." Admiral Bennett studied the map carefully. She frowned as she saw the blank area beyond human territory. "This doesn't make sense. Our long-range sensors can detect stars and planets out there. Why would the map be empty?" "Because every alien species refuses to map that region," Jake said. "When I asked about it, They got scared, really scared. They acted like I was asking about something forbidden. Admiral Bennett leaned back in her chair. She was quiet for a long moment thinking. Finally, she spoke. Jake, there's something I need to show you. It's classified, but I think you need to see it. She led him down several corridors to a secure elevator. They went deep underground, past levels that Jake didn't even know existed. Finally, they reached a door marked with warning signs in several languages. This is the Deep Space Monitoring Center, Admiral Bennett explained as she pressed her hand against a scanner. We built it to watch for threats from beyond our territory. What we found was ... unexpected. The door opened to reveal a large room filled with computers and screens. Technicians sat at workstations, studying data from sensors scattered throughout. Human space. At the center of the room was a huge display showing the area beyond Earth's furthest colonies. Dr. Alex Rodriguez looked up from one of the computers. He was a thin man with dark hair and thick glasses who always seemed excited about something. As Earth's leading expert on alien archaeology, he had studied artifacts from dozens of different worlds. Jake, perfect timing, Dr. Rodriguez said. Lisa told me about your discovery at the assembly. I think I know why the aliens don't want to map that region. He led them to his workstation, which was covered with strange objects and photographs. For the past 2 years, I've been studying alien artifacts found in human space. Most of them are normal things, tools and decorations from known species. But some of them are different. Dr. Rodriguez picked up a metal cube covered with symbols. This was found on New Denver Colony, the same place you mentioned in your report. The symbols don't match any known alien language. The metal is made from elements that shouldn't exist according to our periodic table. Admiral Bennett examined the cube. What are you saying, Alex? I'm saying that someone else was in this region before any of the current galactic species, Dr. Rodriguez replied. Someone with technology far beyond anything we've seen. And I think they might still be out there. Jake felt his heart racing. You mean there's another civilization beyond human space? Dr. Rodriguez nodded. Not just another civilization. An ancient one. The dating on these artifacts suggests they're millions of years old. But here's the strange part. They show no signs of age or decay. It's like they were made yesterday. Admiral Bennett walked over to the main display. It showed sensor readings from the edge of human space. Our deep space sensors have been picking up energy signatures from that region for months. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. Have you told the other galactic species about this? Jake asked. We tried, Admiral Bennett said. 6 months ago, I sent a message to the Galactic Assembly asking if they had any information about ancient civilizations in our area. The response was immediate and clear. They told us to stop looking and never ask again. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up more photographs on his computer. After that warning, I started digging deeper into human space. I found more artifacts, Jake. Lots. More. They're scattered throughout our territory, as if someone was marking the boundaries. Jake studied the images. The artifacts were beautiful and strange, made from materials that seemed to glow with their own light. What do you think they're for? I think they're markers, Dr. Rodriguez said. Boundary stones left by whoever built them. The question is, are they marking their territory or ours? Admiral Bennett turned away from the display. There's more, Jake. 3 days ago, our sensors detected something new. A signal coming from deep in the unmapped region. It's not random noise or natural phenomena. It's structured like a transmission. A transmission from who? Jake asked. That's what we need to find out, Admiral Bennett replied. But the Galactic Assembly has made it clear that they don't want us investigating. Yesterday, I received official warnings from 6 different species. They're threatening trade sanctions if we continue our deep space monitoring. Jake felt angry. They're trying to stop us from exploring our own neighborhood. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. The question is why? What are they so afraid of? Admiral Bennett sat down at her desk and activated a secure communication channel. I've been thinking about this for weeks. The aliens know something about what's out there, but they won't tell us. They want us to stay ignorant. So what do? We do? Jake asked. Admiral Bennett smiled for the first time since Jake had arrived. We do what humans have always done when faced with the unknown. We explore. She activated another screen, showing the shipyards orbiting Earth. I've been preparing for this possibility. The UESA's Pathfinder is our newest exploration vessel. She's equipped with the best sensors and shields we can build. If there's something out there, she can find it. Dr. Rodriguez began gathering his artifacts. I want to go with the expedition. These artifacts might be the key to understanding what we find. Admiral Bennett nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. I've already selected a crew. Captain Nina Walsh will command the mission. She's our best deep space explorer. Jake looked at the two of them. When do we leave? We? Admiral Bennett raised an eyebrow. You need someone who understands alien politics, Jake said. If we find something out there, you'll need a diplomat to handle first contact. Admiral Bennett considered this. The aliens won't like it if they find out we're exploring the Forbidden region. Let them complain, Jake replied. It's time someone found out what they're all so afraid of. Dr. Rodriguez packed the last of his artifacts into a secure case. The Pathfinder launches in 2 weeks. That gives us time to prepare and plan. Admiral Bennett stood up and walked to the window overlooking the lunar surface. Jake, what you discovered at that assembly meeting might be the most important thing. That's happened to humanity in decades. We're about to find out what lies beyond the edge of our maps. Jake joined her at the window. In the distance, he could see the construction yards where the Pathfinder was being prepared for her mission. Soon, that ship would carry them into the unknown region that every other species in the galaxy feared to explore. Whatever's out there, Jake said quietly, we're going to find it. The U-East Pathfinder moved through space like a silver arrow. Captain Nina Walsh sat in her command chair, watching the stars change from white dots to colored streaks as they traveled faster than light. She was a small woman with red hair and green eyes, but everyone on the ship knew she was tough as steel. She had explored more unknown systems than any other captain in the Earth fleet. 3 weeks had passed since they left New Denver Colony, the last human outpost. Jake Morrison sat at the communication station, monitoring messages from Earth. Dr. Alex Rodriguez was in the science lab, studying his ancient artifacts. The rest of the crew worked quietly at their stations, all of them wondering what they would find in the Forbidden region. Lieutenant Ben Carter looked up from his sensor display. He was young and nervous, but he was the best communications officer in the fleet. Captain, I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. Captain. Walsh turned her chair toward him. What kind of strange, Lieutenant? Artificial structures, ma'am. Big ones. They're scattered across multiple star systems ahead of us. Commander Kate Miller, the ship's navigator, checked her charts. She was an older woman with gray hair who had been exploring space for 20 years. That's impossible. There are no colonies or stations marked in this region. Dr. Rodriguez hurried onto the bridge, carrying his tablet. Captain, my artifacts are reacting to something. They're getting warmer and starting to glow. Captain Walsh studied the sensor readings. The structures were huge, bigger than anything she had ever seen. Some of them looked like rings around entire stars. Others were shaped like enormous pyramids, floating in empty space. How big are these things? She asked. Lieutenant Carter ran the numbers through his computer. The largest one appears to be a ring structure around a red giant star. The ring is about 200 million kilometers across. Jake Morrison whistled softly. That's bigger than Earth's orbit around the sun. Captain Walsh made her decision. Set course for the nearest structure. But keep our shields up and weapons ready. We don't know what we're dealing with. The Pathfinder changed direction, heading toward a massive pyramid-shaped object floating near a small yellow star. As they got closer, the structure became even more impressive. It was made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange patterns covered its surface, glowing with soft blue energy. I'm scanning the structure, Lieutenant Carter. Reported, the material is unlike anything in our databases. It's definitely artificial, but the construction techniques are completely unknown. Dr. Rodriguez was studying his artifacts, which were now glowing brightly. Captain, these artifacts are definitely connected to whatever built these structures. The symbols on my artifacts match the patterns on that pyramid. Suddenly, the pyramid began to change. Light started moving across its surface in complex patterns. The structure seemed to be waking up after a long sleep. Captain, we're being scanned, Lieutenant Carter said, his voice tense. Multiple energy beams are examining our ship. Are they hostile? Captain Walsh asked. I don't think so. The scans are very gentle, like someone trying to learn about us without causing damage. The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a voice spoke. It wasn't in any human language, but somehow everyone on the bridge could understand it perfectly. Unknown vessel identified. Species analysis in progress. Stand by for evaluation protocol. Jake Morrison leaned forward in his chair. Evaluation protocol? What does that mean? The voice spoke again. Biological signatures detected. Carbon-based life forms. Intelligence level being assessed. Please maintain current position. Captain Walsh looked at her crew. They were all scared, but trying not to show it. This is Captain Nina Walsh of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. Who are you? We are the guardians left behind by those you would call the architects. We have waited 3 million years for a worthy species to reach this place. Dr. Rodriguez stood up, his artifacts now glowing so brightly that he had to shield his eyes. The architects? You mean there was an ancient civilization here? The architects were the builders of these structures. They shaped stars and moved planets. They prepared the galaxy for those who would come after them. But they have moved beyond physical existence. Only their guardians remain. Commander Miller checked her navigation charts. If these architects were so advanced, why haven't we heard of them before? The guardian voice was quiet for a moment. Many species have come to this place. The Vorthik were here 50,000 years ago. The Zeltar arrived 30,000 years past. The Nemari, the Corvani, the Vexians, all have stood where you stand now. Jake Morrison felt his heart racing. What happened to them? They were tested. They were evaluated. They were found wanting. What kind of test? Captain Walsh asked. The pyramid structure began to glow brighter. The test of worthiness. Can a species handle the responsibility of architect knowledge? Can they use great power without destroying themselves or others? Can they think beyond their own immediate needs? Lieutenant Carter's hands trembled as he worked his controls. Captain, I'm detecting more structures activating throughout this region. Whatever we started, it's spreading. Dr. Rodriguez looked at his glowing artifacts. The other species failed the test, didn't they? That's why they don't want to map this region. They remember being here, but they remember failing. Correct, the guardian voice replied. Each species was given a choice after failing their evaluation. Accept memory modification to forget the architects ever existed or face extinction. All chose to forget. Captain Walsh felt cold. And if we fail the test, you will be given the same choice. forgetfulness or death. The bridge was silent except for the quiet humming of the ship's engines. Everyone understood now why the galactic map ended at human territory. Every other species had been here before, failed some kind of test, and chosen to have their memories erased rather than die. Jake Morrison thought about the fear he had seen in the alien ambassadors' faces. Deep inside their modified minds, they remembered something terrible about this place. They remembered failing. "What makes you think we might be different?" Captain Walsh asked. "You are the first species to reach the testing grounds without prior knowledge of the architects. All others came here because they detected our technology and wanted to claim it for themselves. You came here because you were curious about the—" Commander Miller looked at the massive structures surrounding them. "How do we take this test?" "The test has already begun. You are being evaluated on every choice you make, every word you speak, every thought you think. The architects left behind technology that can read minds and measure souls." Dr. Rodriguez sat down heavily. His artifacts were pulsing with light now, responding to the Guardian systems. "What happens if we pass?" "If you pass, you become the inheritors of architect knowledge. You become responsible for continuing their work of preparing the galaxy for the future." "And if we fail?" Lieutenant Carter asked quietly. "Then you join the others in forgetfulness. The galactic map will continue to end at human territory, and your species will never again wonder what lies beyond." Captain Walsh looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all scared, but they were also curious. That was what made them human. Even facing the possibility of death or memory modification, they wanted to know more. "How long does this test take?" she asked. "It has already taken 3 weeks. It will continue until we have enough data to make a judgment." Jake Morrison realized something important. "The test started when we entered this region, didn't it? You've been watching us since we crossed into your space." "Correct. Every action your species has taken is part of your evaluation. Your government's decision to explore despite alien warnings. Your crew's choice to continue despite obvious danger. Your individual responses to discovery and fear." The pyramid structure began to dim slightly. "The evaluation continues. Make your choices carefully, humans. The future of your species depends on them." Captain Walsh looked out at the incredible structures surrounding her ship. Somewhere in this ancient technology lay the answers to questions humanity had always asked. But those answers came with a price that might be too high to pay. "Set us into orbit around the pyramid," she ordered. "We're going to learn everything we can about these architects." The test continued, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. Captain Ninia Walsh stood in the observation deck of the Pathfinder, looking out at the massive pyramid structure. For 2 days, the ship had been orbiting the ancient monument, while the Guardian systems continued their mysterious evaluation. The crew was getting nervous, and Walsh could feel the tension building throughout the ship. Dr. Alex Rodriguez had been working without sleep, studying the data flowing from his glowing artifacts. The ancient objects were responding to the architect technology, showing him images and symbols that no human had ever seen before. His eyes were red with exhaustion, but his excitement kept him going. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Rodriguez called from his workstation. "I've been analyzing the information from the artifacts, and I think I understand what the architects were really doing." Captain Walsh joined him at the science station. Jake Morrison and Commander Kate Miller gathered around as well. Lieutenant Ben Carter stayed at his post, but listened carefully to every word. Dr. Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. The architects weren't just an advanced civilization. They were gardeners on a galactic scale. "Look at this." The display showed star systems throughout the galaxy, each one marked with different symbols. Every inhabited world in the galaxy show signs of architect intervention. They moved planets into better orbits. They stabilized dangerous stars. They seeded worlds with the basic materials needed for life. Jake Morrison studied the display. You mean they created the conditions that allowed all the galactic species to evolve? More than that, Dr. Rodriguez replied. They guided evolution itself. The Vorphic crystal biology, the Nimari gas-based metabolism, the Zeltar hive mind. Structure, all of it shows signs of careful engineering. Commander Miller pointed to several star systems on the display. What about these areas here? They're marked differently. Dr. Rodriguez zoomed in on those regions. Those are the systems the architects prepared for their successors. Worlds with perfect conditions, stars that will burn steadily for billions of years, asteroid belts rich in rare metals. They built an inheritance for whoever proved worthy to claim it. Captain Walsh felt a chill run down her spine. And we're being tested to see if we deserve that inheritance. The bridge speakers crackled to life. The Guardian voice spoke with the same calm tone as before. Your understanding grows, humans. But understanding is only part of the evaluation. What else are you testing us for? Captain Walsh asked. The architects faced a great challenge at the end of their physical existence. They discovered that the galaxy was heading toward a cosmic disaster that would destroy all life. They built technology to prevent this disaster, but they needed a species capable of operating it wisely. Lieutenant Carter looked up from his station. What kind of disaster? The pyramid structure outside began to glow brighter. New images appeared on the ship's screens, showing the galaxy from a great distance. In approximately 50,000 years, the galaxy will collide with its neighbor, Andromeda. The gravitational forces will tear apart most star systems and destroy billions of worlds. Dr. Rodriguez stared at the images. But that's a natural event. Galaxies collide all the time in the universe. Correct. But the architects found a way to prevent the destruction. They built machines that can move entire star systems out of danger. They created technology that can reshape the galaxy itself to survive the collision. Jake Morrison felt his heart racing. And you want us to operate this technology? If you prove worthy, yes. The responsibility would fall to humanity to save not just your own species, but every form of life in the galaxy. Captain Walsh looked around at her crew. They all understood now why the test was so important. The architects weren't just offering advanced technology. They were offering the chance to become guardians of the entire galaxy. What happened to the other species when they were tested? Commander Miller asked. The Guardian voice was quiet for a moment. The Vorphic were too rigid in their thinking. They could not imagine solutions beyond their own crystal-based technology. The Zeltar were too focused on their hive mind. They could not make decisions for species different from themselves. And the Nimari? Jake Morrison asked. They were too cautious. When shown the scope of the galactic disaster, they chose to hide rather than take responsibility for saving others. Dr. Rodriguez looked at his artifacts, which were pulsing with gentle light. How many species have you tested? 47 species have reached sufficient technological development to attempt the evaluation. All 47 have failed. Lieutenant Carter's voice was barely a whisper. What if we fail too? Then the galaxy will face the collision without preparation. Billions of worlds will be destroyed, and countless species will become extinct. Captain Walsh felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Why do you think humans might be different? Your species shows characteristics that others lacked. You explore for the sake of exploration, not just for resources. You form alliances with species very different from yourselves. You take risks to help others, even when it brings you no benefit. The pyramid structure began to pulse with different colored lights. But these qualities alone are not enough. You must also demonstrate wisdom, courage, and the ability to think beyond your own survival. Dr. Rodriguez stood up suddenly. The memory modification you mentioned, what exactly does it do? It removes all knowledge of the architects and their technology. The species return to their normal development, unaware that they were ever tested. Deep in their minds remains only a vague fear of the region beyond human space. Jake Morrison understood now why the alien ambassadors had been so frightened. That's why they didn't want us to explore this region. Some part of them remembered being here and failing. Correct. The modified memories create an instinctive fear that prevents them from returning. Commander Miller checked her navigation systems. How much longer will this evaluation take? The test is nearly complete. We have observed your species for 3 weeks. We have analyzed your responses to discovery, wonder, fear, and responsibility. Soon we will render our judgment. Captain Walsh looked out at the incredible structures surrounding her ship. What exactly will happen if we pass? You will be given access to architect knowledge and technology. You will become responsible for protecting and guiding the galaxy. You will inherit the greatest gift and burden any species has ever received. Lieutenant Carter's hands trembled on his controls. And if we fail, you will be given the choice that all others faced. Forget and live in ignorance, or refuse and face extinction. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood that the next few hours might determine not just their own fate, but the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. If they failed, the collision with Andromeda would destroy countless worlds. If they succeeded, humanity would become something they had never. Imagine. Dr. Rodriguez gathered his artifacts carefully. Whatever happens, we've learned more about the universe in the past few weeks than humanity has learned in its entire history. Captain Walsh nodded. But the question is, are we ready for what comes next? The Guardian voice spoke one final time. The evaluation is complete. Your judgment will be rendered within 1 standard hour. Prepare yourselves, humans. Your species stands at the threshold of transformation. Outside the ship, the massive architect structures began to glow brighter, as if the entire region was awakening. The moment of truth was approaching, and soon humanity would learn whether they were worthy of inheriting the galaxy's greatest secret. Captain Walsh ordered her crew to prepare for whatever was coming. In 1 hour, they would discover humanity's destiny among the stars. The hour passed slowly aboard the Pathfinder. Captain Nina Walsh sat in her command chair, watching the architect structures glow brighter with each passing minute. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, but she could feel their nervousness. Everyone knew that the next few minutes would change human history forever. Dr. Alex Rodriguez held his ancient artifacts, which were now pulsing with brilliant light. The metal objects had become warm to the touch, as if they were alive and excited about something. Lieutenant Ben Carter monitored his communication systems, ready to record whatever the Guardians would tell them. The massive pyramid structure outside suddenly blazed with light. Every surface was covered with moving patterns of blue and gold. Energy. The sight was so beautiful that several crew members stopped working just to stare. Humans of Earth, a Guardian voice spoke, filling the bridge with its calm tone. The evaluation is complete. Your species has been judged. Captain Walsh stood up from her chair. What is your decision? In 3 million years of testing, 47 species have reached this place. All 47 failed our evaluation. Today, for the first time, a species has passed. The bridge erupted in quiet cheers and sighs of relief. Jake Morrison felt tears running down his face. Commander Kate, Miller smiled for the first time in weeks. Dr. Rodriguez hugged his glowing artifacts like they were old friends. Why did we pass when others failed? Captain Walsh asked. Your species demonstrated the 3 qualities the architects valued most. First, you showed curiosity without greed. You came here to learn, not to take. Second, you showed courage without recklessness. You explored despite danger, but you did so carefully and thoughtfully. Lieutenant Carter leaned forward. What was the third quality? Responsibility without self-interest. When told about the galactic collision, your immediate concern was for all life in the galaxy, not just human survival. This is the rarest quality. Of all, the pyramid structure began to change. Sections of its surface moved apart, revealing a glowing interior filled with impossible technology. The inheritance of the architects is now yours. But with this gift comes a burden that will test your species for millennia to come. Dr. Rodriguez watched in amazement as information began flowing into his artifacts. Complex diagrams, star charts, and technical specifications appeared in his mind. Captain, I'm receiving data about their technology. It's incredible. They can move entire star systems, like we move asteroids. The knowledge transfer has begun, the Guardian voice explained. Your artifacts will serve as teaching tools. Through them, your species will gradually learn to operate architect technology. Captain Walsh looked out at the incredible structures surrounding her ship. What exactly are we inheriting? Control of the Galactic Preservation Network. Machines. Scattered throughout the galaxy, they can move stars, redirect planets, and reshape entire regions of space. When the collision with Andromeda begins, these machines will save billions of worlds. Commander Miller checked her navigation charts. How long do we have to prepare? 50,000 years. In galactic terms, this is a very short time. Your species must grow and learn quickly. Jake Morrison thought about the implications. What about the other galactic species? What will we tell them? That is your choice to make. The architects believed that the inheritor species should decide how to use their knowledge. You may share it or keep it secret. You may reveal the truth about the galactic collision or let others discover it naturally. Captain Walsh felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. If we tell them the truth, will they believe us? The species that failed their evaluations have forgotten the architects completely. Their modified memories will make them resist any mention of ancient technology or galactic disasters. Convincing them will be difficult. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his artifacts, his eyes wide with wonder. Captain, the information I'm receiving shows that the architects prepared specific roles for different species. The Vorthic's crystal technology could be adapted for stellar engineering. The Namari's atmospheric manipulation could help terraform worlds. Every species in the galaxy has talents that could help save them. But only if they're willing to work together, Commander Miller added. The Guardian voice spoke again. This is why the test was so important. The inheritor species must be able to unite others, not dominate them. You must be teachers and guides, not rulers. Lieutenant Carter received a priority message on his communication system. Captain, we're getting a transmission from Earth. Admiral Bennett wants an immediate report. Captain Walsh smiled. Tell her we found what we were looking for, and much more. The pyramid structure began to dim, but the patterns on its surface continued to move slowly. The initial knowledge transfer is complete. Your artifacts now contain the basic information needed to begin your training. Return to your space, humans. Begin the work of preparing your species for their new role. Jake Morrison stood up. What? About the other architect structures? Will we be able to visit them? All architect technology is now accessible to your species. You are free to explore and learn. But remember, with each new piece of knowledge comes new responsibility. Doctor. Rodriguez carefully packed his artifacts, which were still glowing softly. How will we know if we're making the right choices? The architects faced the same uncertainty when they first inherited this responsibility from their predecessors. Trust in your species' wisdom and compassion. These qualities brought you here. They will guide you forward," Captain Walsh ordered her crew to prepare for departure. As the Pathfinder moved away from the pyramid structure, she took one last look at the incredible sight. Humanity was no longer just another species exploring the galaxy. They were now its protectors and guardians. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Dr. Rodriguez worked with his artifacts, slowly learning about architect technology. The knowledge was vast and complex, but he began to understand the basics of stellar engineering and planetary manipulation. Jake Morrison spent his time writing reports for Earth's government. How do you tell an entire planet that they've just inherited responsibility for saving the galaxy? How do you explain that the empty regions on galactic maps hide the greatest secret in the universe? When the Pathfinder finally reached Earth, Admiral Bennett was waiting at Luna Station. She listened to their incredible story with amazement and growing understanding. The decision was made to keep the discovery secret, while humanity slowly prepared for their new role. Months later, Jake Morrison returned to the Galactic Assembly on Kepler Prime. He sat in the same meeting room where he had first noticed the blank areas on the galactic map. The alien ambassadors were discussing trade routes and territorial boundaries, unaware that their maps would soon need to be completely redrawn. Windrider Gashan floated past him in his containment suit, deep in the Nimari's modified memories. Jake knew there was a buried fear of the region beyond human space. But soon, if Jake could find the right words, that fear would be replaced by hope. The galactic map still showed empty space beyond human territory. But Jake now knew that emptiness was filled with the greatest gift any species had ever received. Humanity had passed the test that 47 other species had failed. They had proven themselves worthy of inheriting the galaxy. The real work was just beginning. 50,000 years seemed like a long time, but Jake knew it would pass quickly. Humanity had to grow, to learn, and to find ways to unite all the species of the galaxy. When the collision with Andromeda finally came, they would be ready. The map might still end at human territory, but humanity's responsibility now extended to every star in the galaxy. They were no longer explorers. They were guardians of life itself.